It's been over a year since Russia invaded Ukraine. It's been a year of bloodshed, destruction, and displacement. Millions have fled their homes. Thousands have lost their lives. The world watches in horror. This war has no easy answers. It's a complex web of geopolitics, historical grievances, and raw ambition. But one thing is clear: this conflict has global consequences. We're all feeling the impact, from rising energy prices to increased global tensions. So how will this war end? Nobody knows for sure, but we can explore some possible scenarios. Ukraine has surprised many with its fierce resistance. Despite being outnumbered and outgunned, Ukrainian forces have shown remarkable resilience and tactical ingenuity. Their ability to adapt and respond to the ever-changing battlefield has been nothing short of extraordinary. They've repelled Russian advances and inflicted heavy losses. The sight of destroyed Russian tanks and equipment scattered across the battlefield is a testament to their tenacity. Ukrainian forces have not only defended their positions, but have also launched counteroffensives, reclaiming lost territories and pushing back the invaders. They've shown the world what a determined David can do against a Goliath. The symbolism of this conflict resonates globally, inspiring many who face seemingly insurmountable odds. The Ukrainian flag, held high amidst the chaos, has become a beacon of hope and defiance. Their success is due in part to Western support. The international community has rallied behind Ukraine, providing essential aid and resources. This support has been crucial in sustaining their efforts and bolstering their defenses. Weapons, intelligence, and training have all played a crucial role. Advanced weaponry and real-time intelligence have given Ukrainian forces a significant edge. Training exercises with Western forces have enhanced their combat readiness and strategic planning. But can they win a decisive victory? It's a long shot. The road ahead is fraught with challenges, and the outcome remains uncertain. Military analysts and strategists continue to debate the feasibility of a complete Ukrainian victory. Russia still has a larger military and more resources. The sheer scale of the Russian military machine cannot be underestimated. Their capacity to mobilize and sustain prolonged operations poses a significant threat. Ukraine would need continued and even increased Western support. Diplomatic efforts and military aid must be sustained and potentially expanded to ensure Ukraine can maintain its momentum and withstand future offensives. A Ukrainian victory would mean pushing Russia back to its pre-invasion borders. This would not only restore Ukraine's territorial integrity, but also send a powerful message to aggressors worldwide. It would be a humiliating defeat for Putin and a major victory for the West. Such an outcome would reshape the geopolitical landscape, reaffirming the strength and unity of the Western alliance. The implications of a Ukrainian victory would reverberate far beyond the region, influencing global politics for years to come. Russia's initial invasion plan was a disaster. They underestimated Ukrainian resistance and overestimated their own capabilities. Their advance stalled, their losses mounted. They've since shifted their focus to the eastern Donbas region. Here they're making slow but steady progress, but a decisive victory still seems elusive. Russia faces mounting challenges. Sanctions are crippling their economy. Their military is suffering from low morale and equipment shortages. A Russian victory in any meaningful sense seems unlikely. They could seize more territory, but holding it would be difficult. They've already lost the battle for hearts and minds in Ukraine. The most likely scenario, at least in the short term, is a stalemate. Both sides are deeply entrenched, with neither able to gain a significant advantage over the other. Neither side can achieve a decisive victory. The balance of power remains precariously even, with each side matching the other's moves. The fighting grinds on, a bloody and destructive war of attrition. Cities are reduced to rubble, and the landscape is scarred by relentless bombardment. This could drag on for months, even years. The longer the conflict continues, the more entrenched the positions become, making a resolution increasingly difficult. It would be a humanitarian catastrophe, with countless lives lost and a devastated Ukrainian economy. The civilian population bears the brunt of the suffering, with homes destroyed and lives upended. A stalemate wouldn't mean the end of the conflict. Instead, it would signify a prolonged period of uncertainty and instability. It would likely become a frozen conflict, with simmering tensions and sporadic outbreaks of violence. Ceasefires would be fragile, and peace would remain elusive. Neither side would be satisfied. The lack of a clear resolution would leave both parties frustrated and disillusioned. but it might be the least bad option in the absence of a negotiated settlement. Diplomats would continue to seek a compromise, but the path to peace would be fraught with challenges and setbacks. In the meantime, international aid would be crucial to alleviate the suffering and begin the long process of rebuilding. The hope for a peaceful resolution would remain, even in the face of ongoing adversity. Section 5. Talking peace. Is anyone listening? There have been attempts at peace talks, but they've achieved little. Both sides remain entrenched in their positions. Trust is shattered. Russia demands Ukraine's neutrality and recognition of its territorial gains. Ukraine demands a full Russian withdrawal and reparations for damages. For now, a negotiated settlement seems a distant prospect. Too much blood has been spilled, too much distrust has been sown, but diplomacy remains the only path to a lasting peace. The international community must continue to push for dialogue, even if it seems hopeless. Section 6. The West allies or armchair generals. The West has provided significant support to Ukraine. Weapons, sanctions, and humanitarian aid have all been crucial, but some argue it's not enough. They call for more decisive action, such as a no-fly zone or direct military intervention. They argue that Putin only understands force. Others caution against escalation. They fear it could lead to a wider war between NATO and Russia. The stakes are simply too high. The West faces a difficult balancing act, supporting Ukraine without provoking a global conflict. It's a tightrope walk with no easy answers. Section 7. China and India. Sitting on the fence. China and India, two of the world's most populous nations, have remained largely neutral. They've refrained from condemning Russia's invasion. They have their reasons. China has a strategic partnership with Russia. India relies on Russia for arms sales. Both are wary of Western intervention. Their neutrality has drawn criticism. Some argue they're complicit in Russia's aggression. Others say they're simply acting in their national interests. China and India's stance highlights the complex geopolitical landscape. This is not a simple binary conflict. It's a multipolar world with competing interests. Section 8. The global economy. Feeling the pinch. The war has sent shockwaves through the global economy. Energy prices have skyrocketed, food prices are rising, supply chains are disrupted. Russia and Ukraine are major exporters of wheat and fertilizer. The war has disrupted global food supplies, raising fears of famine in some regions. Sanctions on Russia are also having an impact. They're disrupting global trade and investment. Inflation is rising in many countries. The economic fallout from the war is likely to be long-lasting. It's a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of the global economy. Section 9. A New World Order. Some argue the war marks a significant turning point in history, one that will be studied for generations to come. The conflict has not only reshaped borders but also the very fabric of international relations. The end of the post-Cold War era is upon us, signaling a shift in global power dynamics that many thought were set in stone. The collapse of the Berlin Wall once symbolized the triumph of democracy, but now new walls are being erected, both literal and metaphorical. The emergence of a new world order is evident. Nations are re-evaluating their alliances and strategies, seeking to navigate an increasingly complex geopolitical landscape. The invasion has shattered the illusion of a peaceful and stable Europe, revealing deep-seated tensions and vulnerabilities. Cities lie in ruins, and countless lives have been uprooted, creating a humanitarian crisis of unprecedented scale. It's exposed the limitations of international institutions like the UN, which have struggled to maintain peace and security. The effectiveness of peacekeeping forces is being questioned, and calls for reform are growing louder. It's also highlighted the importance of alliances. Countries are realizing that in an interconnected world, standing alone is not an option. Diplomatic efforts and military alliances are being strengthened to counter emerging threats. NATO has been revitalized by the crisis, with member states reaffirming their commitments and increasing their defense budgets. Joint military exercises are becoming more frequent, showcasing a renewed sense of purpose and unity. The West has shown a united front against Russian aggression, with leaders standing in solidarity and citizens taking to the streets in protest. This unity, however, is being tested as the conflict drags on. The war's long-term impact on the global order remains to be seen. Economists and analysts are debating potential scenarios, from economic downturns to shifts in trade policies. The uncertainty is palpable, and the world watches with bated breath. But it's clear that the world is entering a new and uncertain chapter. Alliances are shifting, new powers are emerging, and the rules of the game are being rewritten. The future is uncertain, but one thing is clear: the world will never be the same again. Section 10. What happens next? The future is uncertain. The war could escalate, de-escalate, or drag on in a bloody stalemate. Much depends on the choices made by the actors involved. Will Putin escalate further, risking a wider conflict? Will the West provide Ukraine with the support it needs to resist? Will China and India continue to sit on the fence? These are just some of the questions that hang over the conflict. The answers will shape the future of Europe and the world. Section 11. Conclusion. Hope for peace, prepared for the worst. The war in Ukraine is a tragedy. It's a reminder of the fragility of peace and the human cost of conflict. We must hope for a swift and just end to the fighting. But we must also be prepared for the possibility of a protracted and bloody conflict. The world is watching. The stakes are high. The choices we make now will have far-reaching consequences.